Perfect, perfect, perfect. My dear man, how are you?
Very good. And you?
I'm not too bad at all.
What's been happening?
Actually, nothing. Actually, fed up of taking rest and doing Zoom calls and all this virtual world is really getting to us now.
It would know
But
after some time because we're not
yeah,
used to.
yeah, we're not used to it. And second thing is, we're still getting adjusted to the new normal, as the phrase is picking up steam now. We're getting used to the
True.
new normal. It's going to take some
Correct.
time for us to get used to the idea of conducting talks on the camera instead of being on face to face.
True.
Though
True.
I do miss meeting you in Bombay. We should have met in March. Unfortunately, we
Correct.
didn't. But in a way, it was good that we didn't meet in March because both of us could have got stuck. Uh,
Correct. Correct.
yeah, yeah. For me, it is home, so it's not a big issue for me. But for you, yes. How's your wife? How are kids?
Very good.
Good,
Well,
great. And I believe
been at
Goa is
home
now.
most.
Yeah, I believe now Goa is a complete green zone.
Well, Goa was a green zone, but there are 67 cases, out of which approximately 50 are active.
Oh God.
Yeah. So,
And monsoon's just around the corner, so it's not really easy.
but I think Goa will be able to tide over it because they managed to set in, key measures at the right time and
Okay.
adhere to it very assertively and aggressively. So I think one of the unique aspects of the people of Goa is their ability to follow orders in the right manner, and they realized that it was important to kind of
Yeah,
adhere to it.
because yeah, the very fact that people understand that following the rules is good for them, that
Yeah.
is half the battle won. Unfortunately, some parts of India difficult, very very
No,
difficult.
it's also about you see what happened, Bharat, is inherent to the nature of most of the people of Goa. They've always been a community-based setup, right? So if we had old senior citizens in the colony or in our gated community, then we would have ensured that we went out and got them the necessary products. Or what we did
Yes,
was to get people to come to our gated community on the outside, and then we set up a line where people could go buy vegetables and fruits and milk and dairy products and bread and all that. So there was a very organized setup, and a lot of it was done by the people itself. Because you see, the uniqueness about Goa is a community setup. They've always been very community minded from a very long time. So they reach out to each other and they reach out to help out each other. So in that context, I think they have done fantastic. And it is unfortunate that the cases have risen, and a lot of these cases are imported cases. Cases that have come from Mumbai and Delhi and some other parts of India, and maybe some international as well. But I think we will tide over it. I think Goa has done far better than most states, and I must commend the government and the people of Goa for what they have done. Yes, there was a few hiccups at the start. It seemed a little strict at the start, but eventually people got used to it and they started to do what they do best, which is reach out to each other and help each other. And I think that's intrinsic quality of the Goans have actually helped them in this entire, health crisis going around globally. So much more than the government, I think it was the people of Goa that stood out.
how lovely it would have been had every citizen across the length and breadth of India understood that it's not just about self, it is about the community. And had they given importance to that thought process, this kind of spread would not have happened.
Correct.
And my city, Bombay, I really don't have words to express how anguished I feel when I hear or read about the situation back in Bombay. Uh,
No, it's very unfortunate, Bharat. I mean, I feel I have a connect with Mumbai as well.
yes,
And I think the problem in Mumbai, more than the government, is actually to do with an ability for the government to have inspired people in order to act individualistically and in a community-centric manner. You see, there is really nothing much that the government can do, because if you don't understand the importance of non-pharmaceutical measures of containment of the virus as an individual, you're not going to understand it as a family, you're not going to understand it as a society, and neither you
Yeah,
will do it as a
yeah.
community,
Understanding begins with self. The minute
right?
I understand it, I spread it.
And that's the problem. So while the government of Maharashtra has been completely lackadaisical in its approach, because they felt it was important to focus more on the shenanigans attached to having not many cases, that they've allowed the cases to spread. You see,
Yes.
the coronavirus really doesn't care about anybody. And I've been saying that right from the onset. It doesn't care if you're Maharashtrian, Goan,
Oh,
from
no, no, no.
UP.
It
It
doesn't
doesn't
bother.
care.
It doesn't bother.
It doesn't
It
care
really
about
doesn't bother.
it doesn't care about your religion. It doesn't care about your caste. It doesn't care if you're Indian or American.
Yes.
It's just going about doing what it's supposed to do, which is creating havoc,
Yes.
right? And if you want to save yourself from it, the first important aspect of it is you adhering to non-pharmaceutical measures, because everybody will tell you pharmaceutical measures, but that's not the prevention in this case. In this case,
Yes.
the prevention is non-pharmaceutical measures, which means you have to social distance, you have to wear masks, you have to wash your hands regularly. These are very essential aspects of the defeating this virus, you know, and that is where Mumbai actually failed, and Mumbai is going to actually become more like New York in the US, okay, because it's again a bustling city and a lot of people together in small spaces, so that's what's going to magnify the spread of the virus. And I really hope that Mumbai bounces back, but I'm a little skeptical about that, and I think it would see at least another 4 weeks to 6 weeks to see some sort of a change in Mumbai and in the rest of India.
Yeah, because in the next 10 days, monsoon is going to be knocking at the doors of Bombay.
Yes,
And the
then it will
monsoons
get
have,
worse.
yes,
It
because
will get worse.
the temperatures are going to drop. It's not going to help. People are as such frustrated with sitting at home. So people are really going to. I really don't want to complain about the people of Bombay because I know that they're very resilient and they will bounce back. But how long is it going to take? Nobody knows.
No, actually,
There's no other option actually.
No, Bharat, I
Yeah.
think the people of Mumbai will bounce back. And I'm still saying it over and over again. Forget the government. The government is not responsible for saving your life. You
Yeah,
are
yeah. They're just
responsible.
providing you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
you are
it's
responsible. Tomorrow, if your kids get COVID-19, you will blame yourself for it. So you are responsible. The government can do only so much as to tell you what is right and what is wrong and enforce it. Beyond that, the government has no control over people.
Hey, the
No
government can't
control.
spoon feed. They can't spoon feed. In fact, every government, whether the state or the central, they have done a commendable job of, providing the do's and don'ts and doing what they can do best. But beyond that, it's only the citizens. It's each his or her own.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, Savio, I have a very special guy called Tarun who does research for me
Yes.
on, asking the questions. So, the credit for the questions and if criticism any should come to me. Criticism is
Sure.
mine, credit is his.
Okay.
Uh, and I'm not going to ask in any particular fashion because this is not an interview. We are just two friends, having a chat.
Yes.
Uh, I would really want to know how is it that China, which spends about 40 million US dollars on an annual basis, which is basically just 1/10 of what the US spends for the WHO, gets extremely high amount of latitude and influence with WHO. Why is that?
Okay. For that, you need to go back about 10 years into the relationships between the World Health Organization and China. And then you
Okay.
need to go into the relationship between between Dr. Tedros and China. They're all
Okay.
correlated. The Director General of the World Health Organization before Dr. Tedros was Dr. Margaret Chan, who was a
Okay.
Chinese, okay, for
Okay.
a considerable amount of period. Now, China needed to have somebody come in its place that favored it after Dr. Margaret Chan. Okay.
Okay.
So the person they backed at that point of time was Dr. Tedros. The other competitor was from the UK. So China backed Dr. Tedros very aggressively. And Dr. Tedros and China go back from his days as the foreign minister and the health minister in Ethiopia.
Oh.
Okay. Because the Ethiopian government is also left oriented, just like China. Okay. Now, you must understand that Dr. Tedros comes from a political party called the Tigray Liberation People's Front.
Okay.
And if you go into the global terrorism database, one of the parties in that, amongst a list of 100 of them, is Tigray People Liberation Front.
Okay.
Okay, so he comes from a group of what is considered to be terrorists because their main occupation at that time, before they got into the government, was to kidnap people
Oh
and then
God.
charge a ransom. Okay, so the third most important person in Tigray was Dr. Tedros.
Oh.
Okay, so he moved from being a health minister to a foreign minister.
Okay.
And in his foreign minister, interactions, he developed a lot of global relationships at that time.
Which is
So,
very natural.
yeah, where he actually moved to the next level of global connect. Otherwise, it was very difficult for somebody from Africa to move up to the next level. And he's the
Yes.
first African to become a Director General of the World Health Organization. So there was a very strong African lobby along with China that pushed for him to become the Director General. Now, the reason being is he is also, there was a time in Ethiopia where you had the cholera epidemic that happened.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, and he was in government at that time. He was one of the ministers at that time, and he actually and this is what has been reported, did not actually bring out the actual figures of what the cholera epidemic in Ethiopia was all about, because there were a certain section of people that were not with his party at that point of time in a particular location. Okay, because they are more like these tribal set of people,
Yes.
with right.
Yeah.
So he ensured that those people continue to remain sick with cholera and not bring out the truth. So there has been a letter from this group of people that went to the World Health Organization, even went to the United Nations before his appointment as the Director General. But nobody paid
Okay.
attention to it, and he said that these guys are targeting me because they are my rivals. Okay. Now, I have no issues with your past. Your past becomes an indication to what your present and what your future actions are going to be.
Yes.
And Dr. Tedros can wax eloquently about everything that he has done in the interest of the people of the world. But I've always pointed out technical issues that I have. Okay, and the technical issues stem from China's relationship with Dr. Tedros, China's relationship with the World Health Organization. Okay, now let me put it in a clear perspective. The highest level of warning, as you would call it, to a health crisis in the World Health Organization is something known as the public health emergency of international concern.
Okay.
Okay, the meeting of the expert committee or the emergency expert committee that the World Health Organization forms in a crisis had a meeting on Jan 23rd and 24th, but they did not arrive at a decision to call it as a public health emergency of international concern. They took
Okay.
that decision on January 30th. Now, according to the World Health Organization, this is the highest level of decision the World Health Organization can take. Okay? And then here comes the interesting bit. On March 11th, they categorized this as a pandemic. Okay. Now, according to the World Health Organization themselves, a pandemic is not an alert level response of emergency.
Yeah, because that's just a declaration of what the situation is.
Agreed. But when did 95 countries went go into a partial or a full lockdown? After March 11th,
Yes,
not January 30th.
yes,
Okay, a full 6 weeks later. In that time, Dr. Tedros actually went out and made statements in favor of China, even spoke about the fact that you must not restrict travel to and from China, saying that China has been able to do its best, it's being transparent, we must not castigate it for the virus and things like that. So he spoke in favor of China, right? Now look at the other aspect, and I want to take you back to 2009 when the swine flu happened, and Dr. Margaret
okay,
Chan was in position. There also in April, on April 25th, I think, if my memory serves me right, they called for the PHEIC, Public Health Emergency of International Concern. On April 25th, 2009, in the first week of June, they called for a pandemic, which is another 6 weeks of difference. By the time the case from April to June became 30,000 cases of the swine flu globally in about 74 countries at that time. In the coronavirus case, where there were still 6 weeks, the cases reached up to 1,80,000 in 180 countries. The point I'm trying to make is the World Health Organization's main responsibility is detecting a health crisis,
yes,
which predominantly means to prevent.
correct.
It doesn't do that. It is only looking for a cure to the health crisis. If you take both the cases, you will realize that when they had called for a public health emergency of an international concern, they could have categorized it as a pandemic at that stage because there were 7,700 cases in China itself and about 82 cases globally, which gave them an indication, which they knew on January 13th and 14th itself, that there was limited possibility of human to human transmission between families and between groups and between the doctors itself, who were treating the patients. So you were aware of this fact. Now the question is, why do you have two levels? Now, when I spoke to the World Health Organization, they denied that pandemic is a level response, an alert level response. But when you study the discussion they had in 2013, they put for two major levels of responses. One is a PHEIC, and the second one is a pandemic, which is left up to the Director General based on a discussion with the Emergency Expert Committee. Now, Dr. Tedros is telling the world, and so is China telling the world the same thing. You did not listen to who? That is why you're suffering right now. That is exactly what Dr. Tedros says.
So
That
both
the
of
world
them
did
are
not
reading
listen to
out
the
of a
World Health
script.
Organization. Yes. So the problem is, and this is what the world needs to understand, and this is what India also needs to understand. When you lost 6 weeks, okay, please understand this because it's very important. And it's not done the first time, it has been done in 2009 as well. Please
It's a
also
repeat.
understand
It's a
that
pattern.
the World Health Organization had called for a pandemic before also and got countries to buy a lot of medicines and all, and turned out to be no pandemic way back in 2004, if I'm correct. The point I'm trying to make is this: 6 weeks of time for the world to be serious. In 6 weeks of time, people were traveling to and fro from all over the world. There were people coming into India. India started only to look at people coming from the airport sometime in the first week of March.
Yes.
Right? They started to screen people coming at the airport, and also screen very poorly, not seriously. The first three cases in India, which started on January 30th, were three people who came from Wuhan. The first three cases were not cases that originated from some other country.
Yeah.
There were three cases that came from Wuhan. There were people who traveled to Wuhan and came back. So, when the WHO said that you cannot restrict travel and spoke in favor of China when some countries wanted to restrict travel to China, does it not make it complacent of the simple fact that even in a country like ours, the first 3 cases spread because of the Wuhan virus,
Yes.
which is from Wuhan itself?
Yes.
Isn't that the case in Italy as well? It was a
Yes.
Chinese that traveled to Italy. So primarily what Dr. Tedros and China wants to tell you is, let's not focus on the origin of the virus. China has done everything that it can to be transparent, and the World Health Organization has done everything that it can to be transparent and work in solidarity for the world and with the world. But what they're not going to tell you at the end of the day is that there is a cover up and the game is about a vaccine. Even somebody who's known to be dabbling with vaccines, like Bill Gates, has spoken in favor of China. And Bill
Yeah, it's all
Gates,
about the money then.
8 members of the expert committee on the World Health Organization are people who at some point of time were funded by Bill Gates Foundation.
Oh,
This is not a startling fact, it happened before as well. Gates and Wellcome Trust are the 2 major players in funding vaccine-related initiatives globally. They act like NGOs, they donate money, but the game is completely different. And I'm sorry, I do not know any other way to say the truth. That's how I just say it. You know, I'm not a guy who likes to sugarcoat it. So when Bill Gates called up Narendra Modi, even though the Gates Foundation in 2017, all financial ties between India and the Gates Foundations were broken, I could not understand yet why Narendra Modi took the call of Bill Gates. And they spoke about vaccine. So unless Gates is looking at India in some form, a production of the vaccine with China or somewhere, which is why India has not taken a stand as far as this is concerned, except for standing for the resolution that Australia and the European Union put forward, which is an independent inquiry. Otherwise, the government has not opened its mouth. So everything boils down to the vaccine. They are not talking about anything else, Bharat. Why is
so
hydroxychloroquine being attacked right now?
because it originates
Hydroxychloroquine,
from India.
exactly. And because the US president thinks that it is a sort of prophylactic with regards to containing the sickness. What they really want to do is promote remdesivir. Okay, the other
Uh, Savio, it's a follow-up question on the same organization. Uh, the WHO stands China-centric during this pandemic, but how does it not impact the rights of people? It's my right as a citizen of the world to get proper information, which is not just factual but also uh, backed by proof. WHO has done just not that. So what is the
well,
action that we should be
see,
taking?
the WHO will tell you that it's done 3 joint missions in China with
Okay.
Chinese scientists. They have worked with China to find the origin of the virus. They have worked with China to get to the bottom of what the problem is, because they themselves have accepted the fact that the China has come from Wuhan, the virus has come from Wuhan. Their only disconnect that they have is that they say it's come from the wet market and it has not come from the lab, right? So that's where the issue is. They're going to do all the aesthetics required to tell you that they're doing everything in the interest of the people. And in some cases, you need to understand that the World Health Organization has got no powers in their hand. Okay, the only powers that they have really are that of an advisory, because all they ever tell you is that we have to advise you this way, but the rest of the 194 states who are our member states, they haven't done it. which is why even Dr. Tedros is saying the world did not listen to us. That is why some of the countries are seeing the effects of not listening to us, right? The point is the World Health Organization, like all organizations like this, like the United Nations, which is supposed to be a global watchdog, and the World Health
Yes.
Organization is supposed to be a global watchdog, their job is to actually pander to countries that actually fund them the most, or they have in business interests with those countries. It's never about the truth. If the World Health
Yeah.
Organization cared about it and cared about the people of the world, then they would have done the right thing right at the onset, which is enforce at that time of Jan 30th that the countries must, at some point of time, ensure that there is some strict measures taken. If I clearly remember, the World Health Organization was even against the lockdown in February and March.
Yes. Yes.
Today they are talking about, strict measures
Extending the
and
lockdown.
extending the lockdown. So why this duplicity is what I'm saying. The World Health Organization does not know its hole in the ground from the hole in its eyes. That's the problem. They have many experts who very eloquently talk, but in all fairness, they really don't know how to deal with the crisis. Because please pick up the history of the World Health Organization and show me which crisis have they dealt with before the crisis ever happened. It has always allowed it to
Yeah, it's
go.
more of a reactionary measure. It's more of a reactionary body. They're not being proactive. They're just
They
reacting to
need
the
to sell the
situation.
vaccines, Bharat.
Yes. Yeah,
Whether it's
it's basically
Ebola,
like a
whether it's swine
it's more
flu,
like a marketing company. It's more like
it
a
is.
marketing company for the
And
vaccines.
right now they're marketing for China.
Yeah.
They're doing
Uh,
extremely well in marketing for China.
I'm going to quote Mr. Richard Horton, who's the editor of a medical journal, The Lancet.
Yes.
Now, what he has mentioned or what he has written is the WHO has been drained of power and resources, uh, and its coordinating authority and capacity is weak. Their ability to direct international response to this life-threatening pandemic is non-existent. What could the implication of this be on world peace? Are we staring at a war
Oh no,
or a
we're not
warlike
staring.
situation?
We're not staring at a war. It's in my personal opinion because I think no human being in any part of the world wants a war at this point of time because they're more concerned right now on what the economy is going to look like in the
Yeah,
months
fighting the
to come.
economy is itself a war. That
Right.
itself is a war.
So I don't think there is a physical expectation of a war. But what could happen in terms of frustration and desperation in certain countries, maybe even in India, that people will lose patience if they are not able to get back to work, if there's no money flowing into their accounts in normal ways as they used to, there will be some level of frustration that will happen. That could spring into maybe civil wars within countries itself rather than wars between countries. So between the rich community and the middle class or the poor community, there could be some frictions that would happen. People might just go in and break into stores and out of desperation rob food and see it.
Okay. So we agree that the opaque management of international institutions is a violation of basic rights of citizens of the world.
No,
And
I'll tell you, Bharat, what I think. I think we are putting too much emphasis on an organization like World Health Organization. Okay, in my opinion, each country must have its own health mechanisms to develop very strong health mechanisms. You don't need organization like World Health Organization.
agreed.
At best, they are good at PR. I think, this one of the core responsibility of a country is an ability to develop a health system that caters to everybody, and a robust health system. Now, let's look at the coronavirus itself. It has impacted and devastated some of the most robust health systems in the world. The US has
Yes.
got a very robust health system. Italy has got a robust health system. UK, Germany,
UK.
France, right? These are robust health systems. You know, developed countries that you'd expect to have a decent, robust health system. But it has created the most havoc in these countries. It's not created a havoc in countries that don't have robust health systems.
Yes. So, what's the
Right?
way
So I
forward
think
now?
each I think each country must set up its own World Health Organization or its national organization. That is a body governed by professionals that are actually there to do what it's supposed to do, prevent a pandemic, which is and they can then connect with other organizations in different countries rather than having this one major association called the World Health Organization, which actually does nothing. It has no powers to do anything. It has no powers to go into China and investigate the. It has no powers because if China decides it doesn't want investigation, they can't do anything. So the first cause is should we work towards creating preventive mechanisms or only cure mechanisms? And once we understand that as a country, India will set its foot and move forward to create a robust health system. We don't have a health organization, is my opinion.
No, opinion matters because at the end of the day, it's collective opinion which becomes the rule of law, or the way we look at democracy.
I'm asking you a simple question. What is the advantage of the advices that the World Health Organization is giving us as a nation?
Zilch,
Can you
zero.
please elaborate? Can anybody elaborate what? Nothing. Nothing that India has done as a country today is done by the intelligence of our people. I don't
Yes.
need the World Health Organization to tell me how to deal with this pandemic. It should have done that before the pandemic spread, not afterwards. Because now that it's spread, it's our problem to deal with it, not theirs.
Savio? Savio?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can. Now I can. I'd lost you
Hello?
for a couple of minutes. Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. I lost you for a couple of seconds.
And that's exactly what the problem is.
Let's see how things pan out, and for the moment, all that we can do is follow the basic principles of social
Hello?
distancing and ensuring. Yeah, can you hear me, Savio?
Can you yeah. Can you
Hello?
hear me?
Yeah, yes, I can hear you
I'm
loud and clear.
there.
So, yeah, so what we can do now is follow the basic principles of social
No worries.
distancing, and we can just hope to God that uh, the basic intelligence of
So basically what we
every
were saying
every human.
is that I don't think India or any country requires the World Health Organization.
So, you think it's a good idea to have a proper recommendation from a majority of the citizens of India to the government of India to stop,
I can.
funding WHO?
I can hear you.
Yeah. So you think it's a good idea for the people of India to get together and write to the government of India to stop funding WHO? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Hello. Hello.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Did you hear what I said? Yeah. Hello. Hello. Savio. I can't hear you. Just not able to hear you. तेरा हाथ दुख रहा होगा ना. Yeah.
I
Savio,
think
you
at this
back?
point of time, yeah,
Hello.
I think we need to do as a country, and as a important thing we need to do as a country, and the important thing. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Now I can. Now
Hello?
I can. I was losing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. 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 I can.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
That at this point of time, 1 second.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Me.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I hear you.
I okay. Primarily, what I was saying is that we don't require time, but what we do at the right time to tell the Indian government not to send. We need to focus on dealing with the coronavirus and deal after we have flattened the curve in as far as.
Yeah. At the moment, it's more important to win the war
Hello?
against this virus.
Hello? Yes.
So once we win the war, yes, we will have to take proper stand against.
And it's also
It's
not
basically a resource drain.
it's also
It's a
not
resource
important.
drain.
Yeah. But more importantly, you've got an Indian at the chair of the World Health Organization at this point of time,
Yes, Dr.
who's
Harshavardhan.
actually
Yes.
who's actually a doctor. So we would expect some medical intelligence now in dealing with a situation. Uh,
Yes.
because Dr. Tedros is a doctor of not medicine, but he's a doctor more to do with understanding management of hospitals and things like that.
Yeah,
So
he's an academic doctor. He's not a
yes,
medical doctor.
correct. Not that
So
it bothers me. I'm only saying that at the end of the day, India is in a very good position to bring about constructive changes as far as the World Health Organization is considered. Personally, I think the World Health Organization is not an organization that deserves the due credit that it gets because it really doesn't do much in preventing a pandemic. At best, it is an advisory organization and it's very good at its PR, just like the United Nations is. So it's great people want to come together and put in all their money over there. I think at some point of time, the World Health Organization will have no meaning for the people if there is no control on the pandemic that's happening in this world right now.
but do you think it has got any meaning even as on date? Because I don't see any country giving it, any importance, or, nobody seems to be consulting WHO.
Um, you see, WHO in its own right has got certain partner countries that they are very close with.
Okay.
Those partner countries also will have some links to China in some form. So China is backing the World Health Organization very strongly, and China needs to have this control because they're aiming for the number one position across the world as far as geopolitics is concerned. You see, the target of the World Health Organization and China is directed completely at the United States. Since United States started attacking the World Health Organization and China and WHO are almost saying the same thing with regards to the US. Right, so it's definitely a planned attack, and we're going to see a lot more fireworks happening, and that's immaterial because the most important aspect right now is an ability to contain this virus and the spread. We have to ensure people stop dying. We have to ensure that the infected are recover sooner rather than continue to remain sick with the virus, because the asymptomatic cases will be in millions as far as the world is concerned. We are only looking at the symptomatic cases.
Yes, because without a cure, we are actually looking at just being stuck in the whirlpool. We are not going to find we're not going to be able to wriggle ourselves out of a whirlpool unless there is a rope which you can catch and climb out it off. So,
More serious than the health crisis will be the economic crisis that we have to be prepared for.
but trust me, I know I do have a bird's view of what's going to happen in the next 3 months at least, because I've been talking to a lot of people back home in Bombay. I've been speaking to a lot of people across, not just India, but I've spoken to people across countries, and the economic situation is scary. It's scary because uh, every country, and this is something which is not even, you can't even blame a banker. Like, when the banks collapsed in 2008, you at least had, you could blame someone. You had a rogue banker, send him to jail, make him a object of ridicule for his crimes, rightly so. But this time, nobody knows whom to blame. And yeah, China is, I don't know if China is the right country to be blamed. Uh, in my personal humble opinion, yes, China is the country to be blamed because it originated there. Uh, it wouldn't have, it wouldn't have been known to the world had it not been for China. And my last question, or it's not even a question, it's as I said, we're just chatting as friends. Uh, what is in your approximation number of the number of deaths in China?
That's a tough question, okay, because I've been trying to talk to my connects in Wuhan as well, and there are very mixed reports coming in. So I can tell you one fact that is coming in is that even the people of Wuhan call this virus the Wuhan virus. Okay,
So they're accepting that it is a virus which was
it
originated
is
from
termed it's
Wuhan.
termed as a I've spoken to 7 people who are at different stratas of societies within Wuhan itself.
Okay.
Okay, from business to somebody who's a translator, all Chinese origin people, and whatever they've narrated in terms of the timelines of the virus as far as China is concerned, everybody believes that the virus came out of a lab.
Okay.
Okay, they term it as the Wuhan virus. Even people in other parts of China term it as a Wuhan virus. So that's one thing that's coming out. They believe that the deaths are high. Okay, they don't know the numbers of the deaths, but if you go by some of the statistics that came at from the cremation centers across Wuhan,
Yes.
there are 7 cremation centers over there. Then the estimated deaths are expected to be somewhere around 48 to 54,000 deaths minimum. Okay, because of the number of urns that were being given out to people during what they consider to be the Death Day service in China. Not ev- More importantly, what came out was the recent data leak that happened from the Chinese military university, which spoke about a probability of 6,40,000 cases in China.
Yes.
Okay, even if you take a probability of 1% of deaths with that number, you're looking at a considerable amount of debt that could have gone up as well. So
Yes.
I think China has been lying to the world, and China has always been lying to the world. It's nothing new. The Chinese are the biggest liars as far as anything they do is concerned, and I've never had a problem saying that, and I will say to their face, it's not an issue. The point is, when you lie for business or you lie for global dominion, Okay, those are different level of lies. This is a lie that borders on people's lives,
Yes, this is murder. This is murder.
right? You are aware of the truth. You are aware. How is it that China is not facing that kind of rampant cases anymore? It did not spread so viciously in other parts of China, and it spread so viciously across 215 countries in the world.
Yes.
How is it possible?
That's exactly the mystery. That's the mystery question, actually.
How is it possible if in its own country it does not have a spread according to their numbers, and in some far off place around the world, in some
14,000
African
miles
country?
away. 14,000
How
miles away.
how is it spread? So somewhere something's not right, no?
It
Technically.
doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up, actually.
So either China is got something that has been able to contain the virus, or they are lying. And if they have something that's able to contain the virus, why are they not sharing it with the rest of the world?
Because they plan to sell it at and make
Yes. And that
money,
is
and
where the
not just
World Health
money. It's
Organization will
also,
come.
yes, because it's also about global dominion. They dominate the world.
In
Till
my
now, they were
opinion,
dominating with cheap labor, and now they want to dominate with medicine or medical
in my
supplies.
opinion, the Wuhan virus is China's weapon of mass destruction. This is my
I concur.
opinion.
No, I
It is
concur on that.
China's weapon of mass destruction. And if the world does not take this seriously, you see China is going to create more trouble for US and India in the coming days.
Yes,
They are
because they
not,
feel threatened now.
yeah,
Yeah, they
you've
they
not
they
understood the China's strategy. The US will find it very difficult because many large companies are Chinese backed companies in the US. Many companies in India, especially in the tech space, are Chinese backed companies,
yes.
and in the infrastructure space. You're going to be dealing with an enemy within who you think you know, but you don't know. The Chinese are vicious, and if you want to deal with them, you just have to cut off the head of the snake, which
Yes.
means you have to cut all alliance with China. That's the only way you will teach them a lesson.
So it
For the
is time.
4,300 people who have died in India because of the coronavirus, we need an answer.
Yes, we owe it to them.
We want
We owe it to
justice
them.
for them.
Yes, we owe it to them.
If
That's the least
Narendra
that we can
Modi's
give them.
government cannot ask them that question, then Narendra Modi's government must step aside.
Yes,
But
this is the
China
burning
must
question.
answer to the 4,300 people who have died.
And
India
you
must
know,
ask for accountability.
137 million people are actually suffering. It's not just about the dead. It's also about the rest of the
Where is
citizens. We
anybody
are all
living?
suffering.
Have you seen the migrants? How have they been acting? How have they been moving around across
Yes,
India?
yes, inhuman, inhuman. The conditions in
Whose
which
legs to
they are.
get?
Precisely,
Who's
that's what I
bought it?
said. It's not about the 4,300. It's also about the rest of the country. Everyone is suffering only because of one country. And I dare say that it's not a friendly country. China has never been a
No,
friendly
no.
country.
I had a huge amount of respect for China. I have no
Okay.
respect for China anymore. I might like the people, I might like their food, but when you mess with India, I will mess with you. And I will
Yes,
continue to expose them.
they have to. They have to. It's not just your duty, but it's also the duty of every right-thinking Indian to support you in actually bringing the facts to light, because everyone
Now,
deserves
why
to know
can't
the
we
facts.
boycott China? I'm saying the Indian government needs to take a stand that is firm. We have enough of this Chinese nonsense going around the world. Right now, they want to play around with India as far as the borders are concerned. Okay, simply to divert people's attention away from the coronavirus. We have tolerated China's actions for a very long time. There is a time for diplomacy, and there is a time to put your foot down and say enough is enough. We do
Yes.
not want to deal with China. China has to be taught a lesson.
Yes, it's a rogue nation. It is a
It
rogue
is.
nation. That is, there is no, there is no doubt, or there is no ambiguity about that. It is a rogue nation. It needs to be treated like a rogue nation is supposed to be treated. They have to become the global pariah. At least they have to be made that they have to be informed and told in no uncertain terms that they are not anymore welcome to do any business in India. Uh, we are all hoping that the government is listening and government actually does just that, because uh, you know, millions
Well, I
of
hope
people,
so. I
yeah,
believe at
millions
some
of
point
people
of time,
have, millions of people have suffered. I would say 1 billion people have suffered. It's not fair. It's not fair to them, and the best kind of retribution is making China bleed, making
I
China.
mean, look at what they've done to a normal person's life. Okay, they've taken a normal person's life and completely shifted it out of gear.
Yes,
You put people into lockdowns. You put them in an economic crisis. You have put them into a situation where their children cannot go to school. You've changed the entire format, which will now have people not even wanting to shake hands with each other. You have
yes,
completely allowed the world to go far away from what its actual human nature is. You have made us live in a jail, and I'm not going to tolerate China doing that. And I
no,
hope
it
the Indian
shouldn't be
government does
tolerated.
the right thing, because, in the interest of the people of the world, India is the only country that can stand up to China, because
Is
it
India?
has the moral responsibility and the moral
Yes,
strength to stand China and look it eye to eye and say, we're better than you and we can do it better. And the
yeah.
US will
Uh,
support India at that. But if
that is
India chooses to dilly-dally for other reasons with China, then India will face the consequences from China itself.
yes,
Because China is
yes.
not going to be merciful.
No, no, they're not going to think about mercy. Mercy doesn't exist in their dictionary. So that I completely agree. But as I said, that at the time, in space, like at this current moment, we're just hoping that we tide out of this lockdown situation and try rebuilding lives all over again. And yes, while doing that, not forget and not forgive China for uh, using this weapon of mass destruction. I am using your words because I concur with it. Uh, China is no more a country, it's a rogue nation. It's more of a terrorist nation than even Pakistan, because uh, you know we can't wish
And
away Pakistan.
can you imagine, Bharat? They got Jackie Chan to actually come out and talk to the people of India through a video message. I
Yeah,
mean,
they
Jackie
can.
Chan is the best import of China into to India. And I'm very respected. Okay, and I have a lot
Yeah,
of respect for the guy's movies, and he's a very nice guy. But please, I don't care about Jackie Chan, and I'm sure many Indians don't, as far as India is
most of us
concerned.
don't. Yeah, yeah.
You come
See,
against India, we'll come against you. It's simple as that.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. There's no mercy for people who are against my nation. That's it. Period. There's no discussion, or uh, there's no scope for any verbal discussion or anything on that. Let's keep our hopes up, and maybe I'm looking forward to meeting you again. I don't know whether we're going to meet back in home in Bombay, or we, like last time, we'll
In
end up
Chennai.
meeting in Chennai over a cup of tea, and we
Look
guzzle
forward to
down
it.
how many cups of tea in 1 hour. But
Considerable amount of
let's
it.
let's look forward to good times, and
Sure. Thank you.
I look forward to it. Thank you so very much for
My
sharing
pleasure.
time and talking. Thank you so
My
very
pleasure.
much.
God bless.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye. Bye. God bless. God bless. Bye.